Imagine a life where you no longer feel weighed down by what others think. A life where you aren't constantly adjusting yourself just to be accepted. Many people go through their days seeking approval, often without realizing how much it limits them. But true freedom isn't about rejecting others. It's about embracing who you really are. It means letting go of the need to fit into molds that were never made for you. Most people spend their lives trying to be liked, believing that their worth depends on how others see them. They avoid criticism, crave validation, and shape their actions to meet expectations that aren't even their own. But here's the paradox. The more you chase approval, the further you move from genuine happiness. No matter how much you try to please others, the satisfaction never lasts. What if happiness had nothing to do with how people perceive you? What if it was something you built from within? Real happiness begins when you stop living for the approval of others and start living in a way that feels right for you. This shift in mindset changes everything. When you stop fearing judgment, life becomes lighter, more meaningful. You no longer question every decision based on what people might think. The burden of trying to meet endless expectations disappears. And in its place, you find a sense of peace that was always there. You just needed to stop looking for it in the wrong places. Choosing to live authentically isn't about ignoring others, but about respecting yourself enough to follow your own path. And when you do, you'll realize that the only validation you ever truly needed was your own. From childhood, we are taught that being liked means we are worthy. We learn to connect approval with self-value. Praise makes us feel important, while criticism can leave scars that linger. Over time, this need for acceptance shapes how we act and the choices we make. But the truth is, your worth isn't decided by how others see you. The moment you realize this, you step into a new kind of freedom. The freedom to live life on your terms. Instead of embracing who you truly are, you shape your actions to gain approval. It becomes a kind of trade. You adjust your behavior to fit what others expect, hoping to be accepted. But this way of living is exhausting and unsatisfying. The moment you fall short of these expectations, doubt creeps in. You start questioning yourself, and your happiness becomes something fragile, entirely dependent on how others see you. The real issue with seeking approval is that it's never stable. It often depends on things like success, looks, or personality, things that can change or that you can't always control. Even if you meet the standard today, tomorrow it may rise. There will always be someone who achieves more, looks better, or gains more praise. And when that happens, your accomplishments suddenly feel small. This endless comparison drains your confidence, making you feel as though your worth is always being measured against someone else's. Instead of building real connections, approval seeking turns life into a competition. You start seeing relationships as a game where someone else's success makes you feel like you're losing. Beyond being exhausting, this mindset takes away your freedom. Every decision becomes a struggle. Should you do what you want or what others expect? Over time, you suppress your true desires, shaping yourself to fit into a mold that isn't even yours. Not only does this weaken your sense of self, but it also harms relationships. Constantly seeking validation creates a cycle of resentment. Many believe strong relationships require sacrifice, but when you give only to receive approval or appreciation, it stops being genuine. And when that recognition doesn't come, frustration builds. In the end, this search for validation pulls you away from both yourself and those around you, making true happiness harder to find. Many believe that giving should always come with a reward. This idea turns relationships into transactions, where every act of kindness feels like a trade instead of a genuine connection. But true relationships don't thrive on calculated exchanges. They grow through sincere contributions. Giving should not feel like a sacrifice, but rather a way to share something meaningful without expecting anything in return. When you give because you truly want to, rather than to gain approval, relationships feel lighter and more real. You stop worrying about whether your efforts will be recognized, and instead, you find joy in the act itself. Ironically, when you let go of the need for appreciation, relationships often become stronger. When your actions come from a place of sincerity rather than obligation, they naturally build deeper connections. Shifting your mindset from sacrifice to contribution frees you from the constant need for validation. Instead of seeking approval through what you do for others, you begin to find fulfillment in simply giving. This not only strengthens your relationships, but also helps you develop a sense of self-worth that isn't tied to other people's opinions. When you no longer measure your value by how much others appreciate you, resentment fades and authenticity takes its place. The strongest bonds are not formed by keeping score or trying to please everyone. They grow from genuine acts of kindness, given freely. Once you accept that not everyone will understand or appreciate you, you regain your personal power. People will always have different opinions, and not all will approve of who you are. And that's okay. The moment you stop seeking constant validation, you open the door to true freedom and happiness. Your worth isn't something that needs to be proven. It simply exists. It doesn't depend on how others see you or whether they approve of you. The more you try to prove yourself, the more pressure you place on your own shoulders, slowly chipping away at your confidence. But when you shift your focus to what makes you unique and the ways you add value to the world, life starts to feel more meaningful. You don't need to achieve extraordinary things to be valuable. Your presence alone, the way you interact with others, the small moments of kindness you share, these are what truly matter. When you stop measuring yourself against impossible standards or comparing your journey to someone else's, you begin to appreciate yourself in a new way. You stop seeing others as competition and start recognizing the beauty in your own path. Letting go of comparison creates space for real joy and self-acceptance. Instead of constantly chasing approval, you begin to live with a sense of ease. Life stops feeling like a race and instead becomes a journey where you can be yourself without fear. You start to notice how your uniqueness not only enriches your own life, but also positively impacts those around you. The moment you stop seeking validation from others, you reclaim your inner peace. You realize that true fulfillment doesn't come from proving your worth. It comes from embracing who you already are. When you fully accept this, you step into a life of authenticity, confidence, and deeper connections with those who appreciate you for exactly who you are. When you recognize your worth, you stop letting others' opinions shape how you see yourself. You become more confident in your choices, knowing that your value doesn't rise or fall based on what others think. This mindset allows you to appreciate your strengths, accept your flaws, and experience a deep sense of inner peace, something no amount of approval can provide. Living for yourself isn't selfish. It's essential. It means making choices that truly bring you happiness rather than constantly trying to meet other people's expectations. True happiness doesn't come from meeting society's standards or winning the approval of others. It comes from living in a way that aligns with what truly matters to you. This doesn't mean ignoring the people around you. It simply means that your sense of worth isn't tied to their opinions. When you live authentically, everything in your life starts to feel more aligned. Your goals reflect your true passions, your relationships feel more real, and your understanding of yourself deepens. Having the courage to be disliked isn't about rejecting people or their opinions. It's about choosing to live freely without being controlled by what others might think. When you stop seeking validation, you'll find that the right people will appreciate you for who you are, and the opinions of those who don't won't weigh you down. In the end, the choice is yours. Live according to what others expect, or step into a life where you are fully yourself. The courage to be disliked is the key to true fulfillment, because the moment you stop trying to please everyone, you start living for yourself.